she's going to laugh at my Excel document.
That's a huge statement.
Why couldn't Ainsley do bowling?
That's Joe.
That's Rooster.
And this is the Together We Shall podcast, episode 57. What's happening, man?
What's going on?
That's September, which I think, who was it? Green Day had a song about that. Somebody wake me up at the end of September.
That's it. Wake me up when September ends. Man, that's got to be a good 21, 22 years old now, probably.
Yeah, I stopped trying to count it because every time I look at it, it makes me feel that much younger. Younger in quotation marks. Yeah, good song, and I'm sure you're going to hear people reference it, but especially towards the end of the month. Or maybe now. Shoot, we just had a conversation yesterday about how awesome September's going.
Yeah. Insert sarcasm.
I know. This is supposed to be an uplifting podcast, but so we were not going to get into the long list of things, but if you're listening to this right now and you're having a great September, in parentheses or quotation marks, you're not alone, and we can wake you up if you want us to when September ends. But with that said, what's the latest, man? Like the highlight stuff before we can jump into the show here. It's been a month or two since we chatted.
It's football season and the hunt for October. So, I mean, that's like, it's a good time of year.
Okay, that's fair. Little sportage. Got the college sports are underway. How's your fighting Irish doing? Well, wait, shoot, that's not fair. I swear I didn't mean to actually ask that question.
I mean, they lost week 1 to another top 10 team in a very hostile environment. So I'm not overly upset about that. We'll see what this weekend brings. But be all right.
Did you want to ask me about my Tigers? Because you can, because I definitely have some thoughts on it.
Okay, yeah. How about which Tigers? Who are your Tigers? There's a couple.
Well, it's the Tigers of Louisiana State University,
Yeah.
Which for all my friends down on I-10 and I-12, they might balk at this. It's overrated, bro. I'm saying it. The team is overrated. What do you think about me?
I think you've been overrated since you got that coach of yours.
Where did he come from?
Cincinnati. He had to stop somewhere else, but he came from Cincinnati.
The dude's totally from Notre Dame. You know it. All right. Anyway, we could probably go around and banter on college sports for a while, but like at its core, what's happening in your life? Like there's kind of some big stuff you're dealing with that the listeners should know about. Should you have to abruptly leave?
Yeah, if I have to abruptly leave, or if you are watching this on YouTube or whatever, and you see me make a silly face, it's not because of our guest. It might be because of Rooster, but not because of our guest. But it is because I am 2 weeks post knee surgery. So.
So this is like an ACL, MCL, GCL, something in the CLs?
No, it was my meniscus, and they did what's called bone marrow big words, where they extracted bone marrow out of my femur to help the meniscus recover, because it's my second time with meniscus surgery and there's not much left of it.
Okay. All right. Well, we wish you a speedy mend. When do you expect to be weight bearing?
I don't know. I felt really good yesterday, and then today was not a good day, so we'll see. But my evaluation for that is September 24th. So
Okay.
we'll find out in 2 weeks.
Okay. Well, I think we have a guest coming to see us in October, if not sooner. So we'll get an update in episode 58 where you're at in that journey. But in all sincerity, man, I obviously wishing a mend and more positive than negative days as you transit this. Our guest today is Billy Price. Nobody probably knows our guest by the name Billy Price, but when you know what Billy has done with his first name, if that's a fair way to say it, you might suddenly have some, oh, wow, wait, I think I know this guy, or at least what his legacy is shaping up to be. So without further ado, Billy, welcome to the Together We Shall podcast.
Oh, thanks, guys. Thanks for the invite. I'm excited for our conversation.
Likewise, I had a chance to meet with you about a month ago and invited you to come on and dance with us, and you gladly accepted. So we're stoked to have you. It should be good. As you were listening to Joe talk about his meniscus journey, I couldn't help but like kind of watch you shake your head up and down like, okay, yeah, I've heard of some of those words before. Yeah.
Well, most definitely. I mean, I grew up skiing, so I know a lot of guys that had knee problems, and getting glued back together in time for the next season, and the whole song and dance trying to get better.
Yeah.
That's funny. The first time I had knee surgery was a snowboarding accident.
You go. So for all our listeners that are looking for September to end so they can jump into snow season. No, Billy, what we used to usually like to ask our guests just straight up is like, who are you and where are you coming to us from physically? And why do you think you're a guest on the Together We Shall podcast? Pretty straightforward questions.
Yeah, so born and raised in Seattle. I still live in Seattle, and which is Pacific time zone. So I think we're on coast to coast at this point. And I use a wheelchair. I broke my neck when I was a teenager, and that journey took me a lot of different directions, but also led me down the path of starting a shoe company. And there's a lot of, there's a lot. It's been a journey. It's been an awesome journey. It's always fun to talk about. And our worlds, I think a lot of folks that are connected with Ainsley's Angels use our product. So I'm excited to talk about it.
Joe, do you know what Billy's product is?
Is it a shoe?
Oh wait, he said that, didn't he? So what's great about it is we have phenomenal partners, and I don't even think they're your competitors, but full transparency here, our friends at ASICS and our friends at On have gotten behind our efforts. And when I had a chance to meet you, and it dawned on me like, dude, do you know how many people within Ainsley's Angels use ASICS and On shoes to run? But then how many people in the Ainsley's Angels world use Billy shoes, essentially the Billy Goat shoes, to go forth every single day and to get in their chairs for the chariot racing and pull people. So like, I don't know if you thought about it, Billy, but our riders that sit in our chairs, they pull these runners. That's how we frame it up. And so did you know that your product is on the feet of our angel athletes that are pulling people wearing ASICS and On shoes around the courses of America?
I did not know that.
How about that?
That's absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible.
You want to talk about some parallels? I mean, we're just like all just straight going with parallels and how do you say roads that intersect. But so tell us, please, if you can take us to the point. I want to get into the product element of this eventually, but I really would like, in your own story and words, if you could talk about life up until the point where you said you broke your neck as a teenager, just to
Yeah.
frame it up for awareness. And
Yeah, sure, no problem. Yeah, so I was a really active kid. I mean, I played a lot of sports and was very inquisitive. I loved to understand how things were worked and were put together. And my dad had a workshop in his, off the garage. And I don't know, I was always tinkering with my hands and loved playing the outdoors. Very active in Boy Scouts, and I don't know, I was just I don't know, just a typical kid, I guess. And then when I got out of high school, when I was going to college, within the first 2 weeks of school, I fell 3 stories head first out of a window. And when I hit the ground, it was a concrete sidewalk. When I hit the ground, it broke my neck and broke my back. And in that moment, I instantly became paralyzed from the chest down. So I went from a fiercely independent kid to all of a sudden a very dependent kid. So as I picked up the pieces, I was in the hospital for about 5.5 months trying to put it all back together, like mentally, as well as what wheelchair to replace my legs and what did the future would look like. And but I got out of the hospital, actually went back to college, graduated with a mechanical engineering degree, and got a job with the Federal Aviation Administration as a mechanical engineer, which is a totally different chapter. But that led me later on to co-founding a shoe company, Billy Footwear, with my buddy, and we had no idea the company would grow as it has. And but it's just been a wild ride.
man, that's yeah. Congratulations, man, on Billy Footwear and the success of it. But really, I think the lens in which you chose to look at, I guess, the broken neck. I mean, you had a couple of different ways you could have went with it, but I'd be remiss if I just made an assumption here that says, "Oh yeah, well, in that moment, my neck was broke, and I'm going to have to get a wheelchair to replace my legs, and that's just how my life's going to be." Is that really how you traveled that journey? Like, there had to be something else there that's like, oh man, like, can you take us a little bit further deeper into that? How you got from the moment your neck broke to some of these
Yeah, of course, of course. Yeah, it's funny when I tell the story, it seems like all linear and just step, 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 but it was dark. It was a very dark moment in time because all I could think about was all I can think about is what I lost. And I mean, to kick a soccer ball, to run, to ride a bike, to climb, to swim, to, I don't know, like just get out of bed and walk across the room, to be able to, use my hands. I mean, because my level of injury, it affects all four of my limbs. So I'm considered a quadriplegic. I have wrist function where my wrist can go back, which kind of closes my hands, but there's no connection between my brain and actually the end of my fingers that I can actually do things with the with a high level of dexterity. So like if I want to weave something, like I was really into putting bracelets together or sewing, like that kind of stuff, it was just, all of a sudden I was no longer able to do that. And as I say, all I could think about is what I was lost. And I remember I was feeding myself poison talk, like it's not worth living if you can't walk. And really, when I started using that type of language, it became apparent quickly of how dark of a place I was at and how I truly kind of hit rock bottom. And I recognized that. And it was really people around me too, like recognizing as well, saying, like, you know what, man, if you don't change that mindset, I don't know what the future's gonna look like. And really in that moment, it turned from me continually ask the question, why me? It kind of changed to why not me? And really what it did was it didn't magically make everything better, but what it did was, I mean, it didn't remove the challenge, but I think what it did was it created this all of a sudden starting point to be able to say, all right, I'm going to do what I can to move inch by inch, incremental gains. And then hopefully, with consistency, it'll create some fruit as you begin to move forward. So, as I say, you don't snap your fingers and turns into Candyland, but inch by inch, when you start looking in the rearview mirror, you start seeing some good progress.
Yeah, I mean, there's a saying like with football, right? It's a game of inches. I think you talk about life as a game of inches, just that one, like that 1% better type of mentality, right? Like just keep moving forward, even if it's what is it? If you can't run, walk, can't walk, crawl, but just keep moving forward. Yeah, definitely. So when you said 5.5 months in the hospital,
I
man,
did, yeah.
and that's not I don't know what the term, not ironic, whatever. We talked about being in a dark place, and we joked earlier, Roosh and I, about like wake me up when September ends. It's actually a good kind of tie-in too. That's National Suicide Awareness or Prevention Month, so if anyone's listening, make sure you talk to someone, because it sounds like that's what it took for you to make that 180 and now, be living a successful, prosperous life.
Yeah. I mean, I got to hand it to just so many friends and family members that really believed in me before I believed in myself. And I mean, working with nurses and therapists, I mean, they saw the potential when I didn't. And I mean, they saved my life. I mean, it's not like they made me better, but what they did was they created this culture around me that I could choose to change and encouraged me to keep making those incremental gains. And I mean, it's not easy. Holy cow. I mean, the way I talk about it right now, it's like it comes across as like sugarcoating it. And like, you just put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything, but it's a grind. It's a grind. It's an ugly, it's an emotional, it's blood, sweat, and tears, but you can't give up. You really can't.
Yeah, Dave, thanks so much for having the vulnerability to come forth and open us up with such, I think, impactful perspective. So thank you. You didn't hold anything back on that, and I'm grateful. And like Joe said, it ties in really strongly to some of the messages and themes that we talk about on the podcast, but also across Ainsley's Angels. Just this idea of, I think leadership is setting the conditions for others to thrive, and I've said that multiple times. It sounds like those people around you, they led you, they mentored you, they set conditions for you to see that you can thrive and overcome. And I'm kind of curious, like, how does that still show up for you today? I mean, you're years, decades removed from the injury. How do you see those around you coming and setting conditions for you to continue to thrive? And how do you see yourself now setting conditions for others to thrive?
Yeah, well, great questions. And those are big questions. And
Hmm.
I mean, first kind of set the stage of what, like October 9th, 1996, that was my level, or that was when I got injured. So it's crazy how it's 28, 9, like coming up on 30 years, like not too long. So that just blows my mind. It's like more than 50% of my life has been in a wheelchair. And there were so many people that I would say that helped me along the way. And I am so forever grateful. I've been in this attitude of gratitude for decades at this point. And it's truly I really want to do everything I can to try to give back because there was so much that was given into me. So that's come out of me in like a lot of different ways. But I mean, as I say, like the shoe company now, like being able to have something that I guess originally was conceptualized because I couldn't personally put my shoes on myself. I wanted to be able to have that independence. I all of a sudden, like just years over years, I figured out how to do a lot of things, but the one piece of the puzzle I couldn't sort out was shoes. So by creating something I could do independently, and then we started sharing it, there were so many people that gravitated towards the brand, and they were having their own stories of success. So the way I present now and what continues to drive me is hearing the success stories of others because I never would have thought that like having a widget could be so impactful. And it's not just a matter of putting the shoes on, it's a matter of it becomes a door opener for something bigger. I mean, just being able not be able to put your shoes on, it can be a preventer from getting outside of your house to be able to do whatever you're going to do that day. So it becomes this massive unlock. And I hear these stories and it just drives me and it just I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's the stuff that motivates me and pushes me forward.
No, dude, it's solid. I mean, that is setting the conditions for others to thrive. That is leadership. And cheers. I'm going to go with Miller time right now because we all need to get something to sip on. But Miller time, that best part of the show, or I don't know, depends on your perspective. The part of the show where you get to get your favorite beverage or whatever you're sipping on in the moment, and I don't know, take a sip. What do you got, Billy? What are you sipping on there?
I got an energy drink because I'm on the Pacific Coast and we're still waking up over here.
Okay, well, I'm on the East Coast and I too have an energy drink, so I don't know how to justify that. Joe, what you got?
Water.
My man, how about that? There was a time in the world where the last thing Joe would be saying is water, and the last thing I would say is anything other than water. So how the tide has shifted. Um, but the stories that you speak of, man, they're plentiful, and we have Seamus Evans. He's one of our riders. His dad is our senior vice president of programs, and he uses Billy shoe wear for every day that he executes. I was down in Mississippi on 23 August at a race, and Henry Cruz, he's one of our riders down there. I looked over, and Henry's in his chair, and he's all excited because it's race day, and man. What are you wearing on your feet there? He's like, these are my Billies. I love my Billies. And I'm like, man, I'm gonna meet with Billy in the next podcast. You're gonna have to listen. So like when you hear these types of really quick stories about these people who are using the product, have you ever thought about it through the lens of like you are a leader, like Billy Price is a leader because the way that you've leaned into this and set conditions for others to thrive in their lives? Leader.
Yeah, I'm not one to put myself on a pedestal, so I don't typically like try to wear that hat. I mean, or think about myself in that way. I just am so I think what I would say is the success of this brand has been so community driven. It's been like word of mouth, like people sharing their stories, their testimonies. And when I hear stories like that, one, I'm amazed at how there's an individual that's wearing the product and be successful with the product, of which I've never met before, but we have a commonality in that we're connected through community. And like, when we're working together as a community, I mean, we're so much more powerful. It's like it's such a stronger voice, and we can do so much more than as individuals. So I don't necessarily look at myself. I mean, I suppose the leader stuff, but I'm very like I guess modest in that regard. But it just what I hear from that is just like an ever growing team that is ready to tackle the world and make it a better place.
Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Yes, we use that a lot
It's
around the family.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that and like, our mantra, together we shall, right? We can do so much more together than we can by ourselves. So it's great to see, or like we said, all the like crossroads of everything that we have going on between us as individuals and then our organizations.
So when you take a look, go ahead, Billy.
What I was gonna say is, like, it's funny, like, just looking at it from the lens of, like, the business, and like we jumped into this whole thing. We had no idea it was gonna. We just had an idea, and like share it. Like, all right, well, let's see what happens. It was a side hustle, and we had our day jobs, working around the clock, and then build this thing on the side, and it all of a sudden it just started to hit, and people started talking about it and sharing it, and then we get into some wholesale stores, and then we have our own .com, and then it really started to take off, and you start, shipping to all corners of the globe, and it was just so wild in that early on we're looking at what the other big boys are doing, because I mean, starting a shoe company it's a very competitive space, and it's very, like, it takes coin to get things going.
Especially out there. I feel
Oh
like
my gosh,
you're right. Nike, Adidas, On. Who else is out there? All out there.
they're all out here. Exactly. So how can we possibly carve out some market share in this very competitive space? So we were just kind of looking at what they were doing, and we just kind of like, all right, well, we remembered being on the playground growing up, like just kids that were wearing something different. We're reminded they're wearing something different. So let's try to make something that doesn't look different, but is different, and approach it in a unique way. And the funny thing is, as we started to grow over the years, now others are looking to us. They're looking at us and seeing what we've done and trying to duplicate it. And they're asking these questions, just like you're asking Rooster, going like, how did you do it? Like, it's like you're a leader in this space. And part of me is like looking in the rearview mirror going like, how the heck did that happen? So, um, but anyway, it's always fun to kind of mentor others.
It's such you mentioned something too about like it's not about putting like just getting the shoe physically on. It's what you can then do after, like going outside. And it's funny, such a most of us would say is a simple task of putting your shoes on, really isn't. And it's fun this morning as I was looking at my calendar and trying to figure out everything I got going on for the day, right? And I saw physical therapy and then, this podcast, as I have to have my 8-year-old son help me get a sock on because right now, and this is temporary, right? I hope, right? This is temporary, but for someone that has to go through that every single day of their life, like it's kind of like that idea of like you can't do the big things right if you don't do the small things right, like get your shoes on, get out the door, get moving in some capacity. And it's just neat that like shoes are a very important vehicle for folks to do that.
Yeah. And I would also add, it's like not just a function thing too, it's also liking what you're wearing. I mean, like, just
Yeah.
like being able to look like physically appearance, like liking what you see. So if you're wearing something that, because I remember being in the hospital, man, like, oh my gosh, like the stuff that was being thrown at me is like, all right, this is what you'll have to wear now because you don't have the dexterity to put this stuff on. You look at it, you're like, no, sir. Like, I do not want to look at myself in the mirror wearing sweatpants all day long and just like
Yeah.
these massive oversized shoes that are Velcro or whatever. And you're just like, no, I'm not going backwards. I mean, it's like I've already gone backwards. I'm gonna like draw the line here, and let's try to figure this out. And so it's a matter of being confident I mean, liking what you're wearing, it builds confidence. And when you build confidence, you build character, and then you can tackle things that you would have thought would have been impossible.
Yeah, look good, feel good type of thing. It's
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I outside of Rooster mentioned him earlier, Seamus, who I know and have seen wear your shoes, um, who also, is in a wheelchair and is also trying to become an engineer. He wants to go to NASA though, so he's trying to go a little bit higher than you in the FAA. But like outside of seeing him in those shoes, until this morning, I never saw, Billy shoes, right? So I was like, look, cruising around on the website this morning. I was like, and I thought, I was like, damn, these are some good looking shoes. They really, there are some that like, I mean, I would definitely wear. Right? There's some good. You got some good artists and design folks, and hopefully that's you. So you can pat yourself on the back for that.
Well, my fellow co-founder, Mr. Darren Donaldson, he's our product guy. So I threw the idea at him when it came to like the wraparound zipper. And the cool thing about it is a lot of the designs we have right now, weren't just like, conjured up in a vacuum. A lot of it is customer driven, saying like putting in requests. When we first started, we started with kids shoes. Well, I guess I had my own shoes, but when we penetrated the market, it just seemed like kids was a good entry point, and then it expanded into the adult category. But having like different zipper configurations, having boots, I mean, just high tops, low tops, like comfort, all that stuff. It's all been really customer driven. And I love that you pointed out, like Joe talking about, like they would work for you too. Like it was catching your eye as well. I mean, one of the big like engineering terms that we brought into this business was the concept of universal design, meaning that like we weren't just going to be making like quote adaptive shoes. Like, yeah, it came from a place of more like an adaptive space, given my personal story. But what we wanted to do is we wanted to create something that isn't in a box, it just like it blows up the silos. It's not this like adaptive, non-adaptive space. It's like, let's make something that could work for everyone and make like this level playing field where we can all be successful. So a lot of times the entry point is through like a functional need, but then there's a discovery period going like, what the heck? I mean, these could work for me as well. So all of a sudden it turns into a family brand.
There's
Yeah.
there's some parallels there to our guest from our previous episode that came on with Josh. And Josh was talking about like this whole idea of he in his journey went from typical to needing some assistance to execute physically, and has become an advocate for universal changing tables, and essentially this idea that you can't go to a concert because you have to think about where you're going to use the bathroom or where you're going to change. That's different from standing at the urinal at you pick a concert, and how that functional need or how that lifestyle requirement has driven his life work now in Michigan to petition for these to be in as many places as possible. And so I'm making a parallel there between how it's when we're put in a position where we realize that we're about to have to, I guess, immerse ourselves in an environment because of whatever happens in our lives, that it can open, I think, our creativity and our minds to the realm of possible and change. And that brings a question that I'm curious about. As you go back, Billy, and you talk about 5.5 months in the hospital, like was the creativity for something that was, I don't know, more functional or stylish or something you could put on for yourself, was that born inside the walls of that hospital, or did it take time after the struggles of leaving the hospital and so forth for you to get that light bulb moment, or that Dr. Emmett Brown in Back to the Future, 2100 gigawatts or whatever, when he fell off the toilet? Like, when did that moment happen?
You know, I I've been asked that question before, and I've asked the same question myself. And in all honesty, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I don't think it happened in the hospital. That's for sure. I mean, I think that I just saw what was available, and I said that's not going to work. And it's like, what's the solution in the now to figure it out? So there was always somebody helping me with my shoes ever
How long do
since.
you think that was? Like from, pick a month in the hospital to you have not necessarily the idea for a shoe company, but just like something's got to change. Like,
Yeah. So, I mean, I can almost give you the exact dates. I mean, it was like,
uh,
so, I mean, I was in the hospital and it was October of 96. And then I mean, I almost think like Rooster and Joe that like the idea like just birthed itself like in a moment. And it was at a Christmas party in December of 2011 where I was over at Darren's house catching up with him. And I hadn't seen him in a while. I mean, we grew up together, rode the bus together and all that, but it had been a long time since I'd seen him. And we were catching up over a beer and just kind of spitballing ideas. And he was telling me about a shoe project that he was personally working on. Like he just challenged himself to go out and learn how to make shoes. And he was working with a factory and working with an agent, had some designs. And as he was telling me this, I was like, you know what? That's the one piece of the puzzle I've not sorted out. And I was like, I bet, if there was a shoe with like some sort of different way of getting into it, like maybe a zipper that goes on the outside and around the toe, or I could open it up with my limited hand dexterity, that might work. So that idea could have very well just like birthed itself in that moment. But I think the idea was kind of deep into me knowing that there had to be a different entry point. It just, the pieces hadn't really come together until that moment because there wasn't a way to move on the idea. Like you can have an idea, but there's no way to move on it. You can't really conjure it up. So all of a sudden, Darren talks about how he's like going out to make a shoe, like, oh my gosh, like here's possibly a way to actually bring this thing into existence. So it could have been December 2011. Tell you the truth,
Yeah.
guys.
So
So-
I can't help myself. Joe, save your thought. Because what was the chances of you not going to that Christmas party or that holiday gathering in December? Like because life was happening, or maybe that morning you couldn't get your shoe on, or freaking, I don't know, you had a bad day. Like, how close were you to not going to that?
Wow. Wow. I've never thought about that. You're right. You're right. Yeah, because it's like not that easy to get out of the house and whatever. So I'm not gonna say 50-50. I was pretty good about catching up with people that time, and just like I was kind of a bit of a socialite, but I wouldn't say like 100% chance I was going to that party. So yeah, there could have been a chance. Boy, that would have been a bummer to miss that. How about that? I never considered that.
Well, it's great, like what do they say? Or there's like not they say, but like the joke, like I always do my my best thinking with a beer. So it might have worked. Was it a Rainier? Was it
I think for the yeah, let's say it's a Ranger. I don't know what it was, but I love Ronier. Ronier's great.
Oh
was
shit!
so
Is
from
that
December of 2011 till the first shoe was like completed? How long was that?
So yeah, so there's a lot that happened because I was saying it was a while. It was a while. So it was December 2011, and I didn't actually have a shoe that I was putting on independently until 2000 like 15. It was quite a while. And the reason was because um starting a shoe company takes capital, and we didn't necessarily have it. I mean, Darren was like speaking from his own personal experience at this point, like starting his own little shoe project, and it was very capital intense. So what we did was we thought about like, all right, well, what's a way to be able to generate some money to be able to move forward with this thing? And I grew up skiing. I mean, I grew up skiing, and I wanted to get back on the ski slopes way back when. So my dad and I created this like ski glove that I could put on, given my limited hand dexterity, and still hold on to my outriggers. Because as a sit skier, when you're going down, you actually hold on to these almost like pontoon things, like they're ski poles, but there's skis on the end of them. But given that I can't really squeeze, especially in like a 5-finger glove, we had to kind of adapt something to be able to work. So I had this prototype that we went and manufactured and did a Kickstarter campaign to generate some capital from this ski glove. And that became the seed funding to be able to fund the project to go out and sample these shoes. So there was a bit of a tangent that went off to be able to generate some money, and that kind of, gobbled up some of that time. And really, the accelerator, I'd say, it's funny, you can't really make this stuff up. The accelerator is, I got called up by a PR firm, wanting us to be on a reality television show. So we were on this one-hit wonder reality television show um, through the auction channel, and that was really the accelerator for us to take the leap, to really move forward with this project. And we got absolutely nothing out of that show except it was the catalyst for us to like commit to this project.
Man, that's that. So what happened with the glove?
So we still have the glove. We still have the
Okay.
glove. I mean, we made about 50 units and sold them, and through the Kickstarter campaign, and we still have some others. But it was the market isn't big enough really to be able to build a business around that. But it was a stepping stone for something bigger.
I mean, that's another like something you would overlook, right? Like is putting your shoes on, with limited dexterity and potentially any, deformation, if you would, of a hand. Like if you live in a cold area, like how do I get my hand in something to make my hand not cold so I can go get on the bus?
Yeah,
Just another.
exactly. I mean, the need is very relative for sure, but it's more of a niche product, and actually the glove project was a great lesson that we had learned going into the shoe project, because we realized that if we make a super niche shoe, it's just very difficult to market. Like our best hope to be able to build a business is you need to cast that net as wide as possible. So that kind of circles back to the whole universal design thing, trying to create something that works for everybody.
Now, is the plan to stay in the footwear space, purely, or should I say, for the most part? I mean, there's always going to be one-offs and little things that happen in apparel things, but like, where are you in 2025 when it comes to kind of the next 10 years as it applies to the shoe wear? And I think you get the spirit of the question.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, well, definitely all in on shoes. I mean, like, so that's the main focus. When it comes to apparel, I mean, we're definitely open to it. On our website, we do have apparel offered, but it's all print on demand. So it's from a business perspective, it's great to be able to, because you can give an offering, but you're not necessarily, shackled to like the inventory, right? So it's that's been a great solution for us. I can see us probably getting into more of like maybe backpacks or like just lunch, like kind of like like rounding out the whole like back to school thing for kids and stuff. But I would say it'd be more on the on demand type manufacturing. Eventually, like when we get much bigger, it would be awesome to be able to do like these real niche products and projects. It's just that the niche, like those type of projects are much more costly to do, and we just need to build up the business to be able to take on projects that don't generate money. It's the right thing to do that, but it's just very difficult to support this time as a growing business.
No, that's an extremely fair answer. Definitely, definitely something I can tell you thought through. How many SKUs are you up to ish these days? Ish.
Well, when you start, that's the whole thing about shoes. Like, there's so many different sizes and widths and colors. So, I mean, because if you take into consideration like multiple widths, multiple colors, multiple sizes, the SKU count it grows tremendously. So you may look at the website and see 100 thumbnails, but all the different combinations, it puts it in the thousands. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like 4,000 SKUs at this point.
So the spirit of the reason I asked that question was to give the listener perspective. What Billy and his team have decided to do here is to focus on the shoe wear, because sometimes if you go too wide, you can impact negatively, what started it all. And we faced that in Ainsley's Angels. Like, we started with this idea of doing all the races, and as time has evolved from the 5K to the marathon to the ultras to the triathlons, there's this new vision we have of like inclusion without limits. And what we're facing as we navigate this is like, in principle, in theory, the idea of inclusion without limits is a beautiful vision, aka dream, to get to a world that has inclusion without limits. But when it comes to like the business execution of that, you have to be extremely careful how you choose to scale or deviate, because it can negatively impact the core starting point mission. And I bring that because as our listeners are hearing this, they might be like, wow, Billy, you're in a great spot. You should be able to provide all sorts of adaptive equipment. I mean, adaptive, gloves like you're talking about, but also clothes. And we need a hoodie that, can get on easier. And while we all in our hearts want to do that, there is still the business element of it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely 100% spot on. You're absolutely correct. I mean, it's difficult because the heartstrings wants to go in all these different directions, but unfortunately it can be a distraction. And especially when it comes to manufacturing, you can't just make one. You got, because if you are going to make one, it's going to be very expensive. But like when it comes to any sort of shoe that we bring to the market, we have to make at least 1,200.
Yeah.
And you can't just do like 1,200 shoes. Like, that's putting in a manufacturing run of hundreds of thousands of shoes. So it gets to be, and that's, I don't know. And then given like whatever the world climate is, like for example, right now tariffs is kind of bonkers. So that is a whole other, piece of the puzzle that can go overlooked, but be very challenging to be able to move the needle.
Yeah. When you say 1,200 per shoe, that's per like style, but then you can have, it's not of specific color, specific size, specific width, right? Just 12 at large.
Correct. So it's not like 1,200 size sixes. It'd
Yeah.
be within a full size run, within a colorway, it'd be 1,200.
Where
So go ahead. Go ahead, Joe.
where are you where's production at?
So we have a number of factories. The majority of it is out of China. So we have 3 factories work in China. We do have one that we've been working with in Vietnam, and we also had one that we've been working with out of Colombia.
And are the tariffs really hurting right now?
The tariffs are real. The tariffs
Yeah.
are real. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
The question you had about 1200, when I first met Billy, you know me, I'm like, hey dude, let's have our Ainsley's Angels shoe, and Billy's like, okay, let's talk about that. And we did. And he's like 1200 and the sizes and the breakdown and this and all. And he looked at me and he goes, let me ask you this, bro. Like, are you really wanting to get into the shoe world, like shoe distributing?
And I
And I'm
hope you
like, you
said
know
no.
what? You know what? I don't. He goes, yeah, good call. He goes, because you'd bring in 1200 shoes and you'd have like 16 of size 5 left. And now you need to resupply. And he went into this storytelling about it. And I was like, yeah, bro, you're right. So for all our listeners that are out there that are like, Rooster, you're talking to Billy, like create the Ainsley's Angels shoe. Like, yes, friends, I've thought about this. And Billy and I talked about this well before I even broached the conversation or topic with Joe. I had to learn first. And so, Billy, thanks for the education on that. That isn't to say that we won't have something in the future that maybe plays to our colors or maybe discount codes for our population. But for those that are listening and think that that's the elephant in the room here, it's not. The elephant in the room here is to learn through Billy's lens about how he persevered. And man, what a wonderful opportunity Joe and I have today to kind of hear this journey. Wow. Where should we take this now? Like, where do you want to go? What are we not covering? What do we not know about the journey that you and your team have traveled?
Oh boy. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I would say just there's so many different directions we can go. I would just really kind of, I think almost like circling back and like just emphasizing like when it comes to collaboration and it comes to sharing, and it's just it's exciting how um you can have very different worlds coming together to work together to do big things. I mean, for example, it's like we got we've been introduced through shoes, and uh I don't know. I'm excited to be able to figure out a way that we can do more together. I mean, it's like very community based. Like we want to work with the community. You guys are obviously very much in the community, like moving the needle. And I'm excited about trying to figure out a way that we can do something big together.
Yeah, well stated. Me too. I don't know how to navigate that because we're on different coasts and figuring out a time to meet. I'm joking, but yeah, I mean,
It's
you got
so far
you.
away.
Joe recently went out to Oregon, so he can say it took a while to get there. Do you ever come to the East Coast, Billy, and do things, in Washington D.C. or points south or north of there?
Yeah, I mean, it's last time I was out there was in New Work. We worked with an organization called Runway of Dreams, and they have essentially it's a fashion show where everyone that's up on the runway has some sort of disability. So we've been very fortunate to be on the feet of a lot of folks. So that's brought me out to New York a number of years, like in September. So that was the last time I was on the East Coast, um, and I guess that was last September.
Yeah. Well, we always do this thing at the end of October in Washington D.C. Joe, you want to tell people about it?
It's closed. No.
Oh, he's like, no. Oh
We
God.
can
Well,
talk about it, but no one needs to email me or anything about it.
that's hilarious because for 55 episodes at least, Joe is giving a plug about the Marine Corps Marathon experience, and he's so deep into the planning of it right now, and it's closed. Like you can't join us for the 50th running next month. Wow, it's next month. You can't join us for that because it's all closed, which it pains me to say because like it's inclusion without limits and everyone should be invited. But we sent out a lot of opportunities for people to be invited. So
Yeah, we casted that net far and wide.
so we're looking forward to doing that next month, Billy. But you never know. Maybe the Marine Corps Marathon 2026 could potentially be an opportunity for us to really collaborate on the road. But I'm being a bit forward with that thought process. So let me ask, are you at a point in your journey where you, I guess what I would say, give up your independence when it comes to being pushed in a wheelchair or even in a running chair? Or like, do you navigate on your own? And like, how do you navigate? If that question makes sense.
Yeah, Well, so for example, out here, there's a local organization that had a 5K run, and I went with my wife and my two kids, and I navigated that in my power chair.
Okay.
So in my manual chair, that'd be a tough push for me.
Hmm.
And if I was in my manual chair, I would have somebody pushing me to do it. But in a power chair, I was able to do it on my own. So that's how I participated.
Yeah. So how do you feel about about the idea of you moving from your everyday chair into one of our Ainsley's Angels chariots and then trusting somebody, a stranger yesterday, a friend today, a family member for life, I don't know, to actually get behind that and you pull them because they use their legs and you use your vocal cords, spirit, energy to keep it moving forward. Like, how do you feel about that as a man, as a human, of giving up that level of independence?
I that sounds awesome.
Really?
That sounds awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. I mean, because I wouldn't necessarily look at it like giving it up like that. I'd be looking at it more like working together.
Love it. Love it. You nailed it. And I had to be careful how I navigated that because there are people in the world who would feel like they were giving up control and independence and really depending on another person to propel them through the course in a way that could be psychologically negative, honestly. And so I
Yeah.
have to be careful. And so I didn't want to make any assumptions. So circling all the way back, Billy, we need to devise a plan for you to come and roll in the United States Marine Corps Marathon in October of 2026 in our nation's capital. That's what we need to devise a plan on. So,
That sounds
yeah, yeah.
awesome. That sounds
So
really cool.
to get to that, we start small: 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons, training runs, build relationships. And so we have our ambassador. We have an ambassadorship in the Sound in Washington State, and we have an ambassadorship in Northern Oregon. So I don't know exactly, which one's closer because unfortunately my knowledge of the Pac Northwest is limited to wow, that's beautiful. But there should be a chance and an opportunity. And if you're ever traveling anywhere, maybe we can meet up with you somewhere.
Well, great. Yeah. Well, I look forward to connecting with someone on the West Coast and as well as you guys on the East Coast.
Yeah, that could be cool. Joe, what else do we want to get into as we're approaching minute 55 of record time?
Yeah, I know. I just want to like piggyback on the like what Billy was just saying about like working together to get the done, to cross the finish line because that's definitely something that is sometimes missed, overlooked, or forgotten within our organization. I mean, and especially based on the abilities of the individual being pushed, right? If they're not verbal, that changes some things, right? So then you got to rely on hopefully a smile or some form of a hand gesture or something, right, to help with that nonverbal communication. But when you have that communication, whether verbal or nonverbal, that is positive, it makes the experience for both parties so much better, and it really is, teamwork at that point for sure. I mean, there's, we have runners that have stories that talk about like they really wouldn't have gotten through that race if it wasn't for the rider, whether it was
Mm.
their energy, their, determination, handing them water, something simple as that. Like, so yeah, it is definitely a team effort. And it was just nice to be able to hear you say that and kind of remind me and, remind all our listeners that, teamwork does make the dream work.
Yeah. I mean, and something to emphasize, it's like as a runner, because I mean, I used to run. It's like it's not just a physical thing, man. It's a mental thing too. And it's like you need to have that person that's cheering you on and driving you. And I mean, like you can be really, really strong, but man, there's breaking points. And it's like, but if you have like your co-pilot, right there, keeping you in check and driving
Mm.
you, it does turn into a lot of synergy.
Yeah. 90% mental, 50% physical, or whatever that silly Yogi Berra quote was about baseball.
All I know is it didn't equal 100, but you know, I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, when Ainsley and I ran, like I wasn't a runner, Billy. Yeah, I played football and baseball in high school, but nobody who knew me would ever said, "Yeah, he's a runner." And they're not joining the Marine Corps, and some people think, "Well, Marines run." Well, sure, Marines run into the fight, or they run, 6 to 10 miles a year because they're mandated to do so. But when I first went and saw Ainsley have this joy that was the movement, the exhilaration, the just the wind in her face and how that presented to her and how she responded to it, it's like I'm going to become a runner for and with her. We do these 100 races together in her life, and as I think back on all of them, like I wasn't doing any of it alone in any way, shape, or form. Like, in fact, I didn't run races alone at all, because it was almost like I'm going to become a runner for and with her, but I'm not going to be able to run without her. And so that became really interesting when she died. What am I going to do now? And I'm not trying to bring us back to that story that's been told many times, but I'm trying to tie it back into like, do you see the journey that you're on with your business? And earlier I asked you about a 10-year plan, and you were like, yeah, we're going to grow and continue to grow. Do you view this as your legacy? It's a big word, but how do you respond to that question? How do you see Billy Footwear
Boy,
journey? Yeah.
yeah. I guess I never thought about it like in terms of like having it as my legacy. There's so many there's so this journey, I mean, I've definitely got a piece. I got a piece of the overall, journey, but there's been so many points along the way that, even the people that work here now, I mean, they've got skin in the game. They've got like participation, like people we collaborate, people we work with, people that have, come and had their own personal, success stories. That all rolls up into the bigger picture. So I don't necessarily know. I don't think I've ever looked at it from like this being like my legacy, but it warms my heart to the core, um, having something that brings people together.
Hmm.
That's really it. I
Okay.
mean, that's really it. I don't know. I mean, it's funny, like people come up to me now and they're like, they want me to like, get my autograph. Like sometimes I'm like that, or like, oh my gosh, you're Billy from Billy Footwear. And I don't think I'll ever get used to that because there's no way this thing could have been birthed without the help of other people. So I feel like I'm more of a facilitator than just an actual creator.
Yeah, man, that's beautiful. I, and your humility is noteworthy. I, as a fellow human, part of me just wants to ask you to consider immersing yourself a little bit more in accepting how much people getting a chance to meet you and hearing your story impacts them and motivates them and inspires them. And as you, I think to be it, so inspire, be inspired. I think it's a loop. And when it all comes down to it, there's people who have heard your story and met you who are inspired by the journey. And you're not inspiration for people. Nobody, there's a term inspiration porn, and the disabled community has been used in that way a lot. And we're not talking about that. We're talking about how your spirit, your humility, your grit, your grind, your determination, that, and what it has led to with surrounding yourself with great people, that in itself is an inspirational, uplifting journey to witness. So I just ask you to, and I'm not saying you don't do this, but the humility is great, man. Don't lose that. I don't even know what I'm trying to say here. I'm trying to say that, like, dude, you got some good stuff going on, and when people reach out and are in awe of meeting you, the reason isn't, it's so much bigger than any one person.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? I don't, man. I
That,
rambled bad there. Sorry.
no, that makes a ton of sense, and it's a driver because I do want to get out there more. I mean, like the team here like pushes me too, going like, I need to like shed like actual like job type stuff here and be more um out in like the public setting, like being able to meet and hear and listen and just tell the good word as well as find more connection points to be able to do things together. So
Mhm.
it's yeah, it's funny now I'm tripping over my words, Rooster. So, but I definitely hear and feel like what you're saying because you're
Okay.
touching on the truth.
Okay. Well, that's fair. Well, Joe's going to come in with some. He leads with humor. He's going to have something here. I'm on the edge of my seat. What, Joe?
Well, because I've been waiting to ask, and it's I feel like now is the time with as you guys said, rambling and stumbling over your words. Why the goat? I mean, I get like a Billy goat, but like, was it just like, well, that's what it's got to be? Why? Why a goat?
Yeah, so there's kind of a play on words. I mean, so basically there's two plays on words like when we first started it. One was the name of our company. Yes, is Billy Footwear. It wasn't my idea to call it Billy, like that was Darren's idea. But it's also
That's that damn humility again,
okay,
bro. He's
there
like,
you
well, it
go. There
wasn't
you go.
my idea.
Guilty.
Anyway, go ahead, bro. Okay,
But
so
the other thing, like the parent organization is called Build On. So it's like myself, Billy Price, Darren Donaldson, and it's like the combining of words is Bill, Don, and it was more like building on what you have. So there were a number of things at the very beginning to do like play on words. The goat itself is also a play on words. Yes, like me being Billy, like it's a goat, like Billy Goat. That's kind of the comical side. But there was the serious side of it was, or the more serious side of it was, and I don't quite know where this idea came from, but I wanted to be able to have like some sort of symbol that really embodied this tenacity, grit, determination, perseverance, stubbornness, like just boldness. And like I just thought of a goat. I just thought of a goat where you can just put its head down like a ram. It's going to put its head down and just blast through any challenge that it has in its way. So the original logo that we had, it was there was a lot more detail to it. It was the point where there was a huge rack on his head and his back legs. It's like he had so much vigor, like attacking something that it almost looked like a road runner. Like it was kind of like so blurry, um, just because he's getting after it with so much like just tenacity. The challenge was that particular logo having so much detail. It worked great when it was big, but when it squished down, it got really muddy. So that was really the origin story of the goat. And a lot of that, I would say, had to do with me going through rehab. It had to be like just like facing my own demons. And like the demons don't go away, but you come up with tools to be able to keep them at bay and to deal with it and manage it and just like not let it drag you down. Just deal with it. I mean, just like it's like when you're going through hell, don't stop, right? You got to keep going. And so that was that. And then the last thing I would say, like branding wise, another thing is it's always a look of like what's past, what's present, what's future. And like your past, again, like going through rehab, your past, you can't go back and change that, but your past brought you to today. And today you can choose to change if you need to make the future bigger. So a lot of our like for example, like some of the lines on our some of the branding of some of our shoes, there's three lines. It's kind of like two lines and then a big arrow. It's a matter of like past, present, but the biggest arrow is that one going forward. And that's like the most impactful and has the biggest potential. So that's really the big thing, like looking at past, present, and future, and then having that tenacity and grit to like just make it happen.
That's not necessarily what I was expecting, but it's way better than I was expecting. That's yeah, man, that's a good like a good story and background of the logo for sure. So yeah, kudos for you guys through for thinking through all of it that way. Yeah, very cool.
yeah, Joe, that's a great question. I didn't think capturing that story just now. I love that we've included that in the show, man. Good question. I love that. Goodness, Billy, we're running out of time. Although, who cares? What's his name? Rogan does like 7-hour podcasts,
What?
but
Wow.
did you
Holy
know that?
moly. I
Yeah.
didn't know they went that long, but it's
Well,
like gracious. That's
yeah.
a lot
That's
of
a lot,
gabbing.
man. Yeah. And I think Joe's listened to every one of them, so that's on
No,
another.
have not.
um, but so as we talked about legacy, we talked about the journey, we talked about grit, grind, we talked about a whole lot of things. The one thing that I'm just kind of curious, and you've talked about give back and some of the other stuff from a charity philanthropic standpoint. Like, are you actively involved with that role? Like, do you sit on any charity boards? Do you like have anything outside of Billy Footwear that you're actively doing? And if not, does that interest you?
Right. So I'm not on any charity boards right now. I would say the one thing that I do outside of this is uh, local peer. I'm active in the Boy Scouts. So I mean, I was an Eagle Scout. I am an Eagle Scout. Got that when I was growing up, and they've asked me to be like kind of a part of that here in the local area, which I'm excited about because my kids are now growing up and they'll be going to Scouts as well. So, but that's kind of like something small on the side. When it came to like a nonprofit parallel, like an early idea that we had was there's Billy Footwear, but there's also a nonprofit running parallel to that called Billy Cares, and Billy Cares to be more of like the give back, and it never really it hasn't formalized, and we haven't totally wrapped our arms around what all would be underneath that umbrella, but it does kind of roll up into like the community and give back. And as Billy Footwear continues to grow, it's almost like I'm going to graduate from like the Billy Footwear side and get more into like the philanthropic give back, Billy Cares side of it. So, but I can't really talk about it because we haven't really formalized like what it is and what it's going to do, and also really choosing a lane without getting like wanting to do everything and just get totally distracted. So I may have to be pulled from your guys' playbook on how you like try to do everything, but and at the same time stay laser focused. How you maintain that balance.
Slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Slow
Yeah.
is smooth, smooth is fast.
And surround yourself with people that will ensure that you're moving slow. Because I have a call sign called Rapid Rooster, and I like get going. And I got this dude named Joe that's like, whoa, 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 whoa. And had he not done that back in like 2015, 16, like I had grand visions about the expansion of Ainsley's Angels, but nowhere in that grand vision was the word scale. So Joe introduced me to scale, I think, without even knowing the full definition of the word, but at the time, at least. But anyway, so yeah, that would be another piece of it. So okay, so currently not doing that, but looking forward to potential possibilities. Okay,
Yeah,
very good.
most definitely.
Yeah, very cool. So anything else that we should offer to the team, to the crowd, to those listening, to kind of wrap out this chat?
I mean, can I plug like where people can go to find us? Yeah,
You bet.
awesome.
Yeah.
So the mothership is billyfootwear.com. So that's where you can find everything. On social, we keep it simple. So it's at Billy Footwear. And we're on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, really the whole gamut. And but we also have a lot of retail partners out there that we work with. I mean, we're in Nordstrom, not with all like shoes, but we're in kids. We're working really hard to get into the men's and women's departments at Nordstrom too. And then another one of our really big partners is Zappos. So Zappos and Amazon own Zappos, so we're also on Amazon too. And then we also have outside of the United States, we do have distribution in Canada as well as Australia, in Europe, so and the UK. So really exciting to be able to continue to grow and have these partnerships to be able to help scale responsibly.
Good use. Good use. Yeah, thanks for doing that. And by all means, if there's ever some other places where we come across them, we can rest assured that that's because you have a team that's reached out, developed those partners, and now they're offering those specific SKUs. When it comes down to it, for the latest and greatest, you can go to the website. That's the starting point generally.
Yeah, exactly. You always find everything that it has to offer at billyfootwear.com.
Very good. Mr. Orth, anything else before we wrap this, sir? As you're massaging your leg or knee, and I'm getting the feeling that we need to bring the curtain down here.
No, I mean, no. No, Billy, it was awesome to chat. Learned a lot about the entity and yourself, more importantly. So yeah, it's definitely a good chat. Yeah, and hopefully this isn't the last one.
Yeah,
Agreed.
no doubt. Cannot be the last one. What I talk throughout the whole podcast, so I don't ever really have any like parting words to shut things down. So we decided a long time ago that the guest gets the final word. So here's how I'll frame it up for you. If you were going to leave our listeners with anything, based on your journey, based on the future, based on whatever you want to leave them with, know that whatever you say when I'm finished talking, and you can talk for as long as you want, will, when you're done talking, the credits are going to roll. So I'm going to say thanks, Billy, again, for accepting the invitation, for joining us today, for getting up early or adjusting your schedule on the West Coast to do this. And I can't wait for the next engagement that we share, and the creativity perhaps that comes out of that. I'm excited for the way ahead. So, Billy, final words for our audience.
I would say that like some of the best advice I ever got growing up, and it was from my dad. It was, when you get knocked down, you just got to keep getting back up. In other words, like if you fail, you got to get back up. And it was great advice. But one part of that advice that I realized later, it was missing that when you get back up, you kind of have to reassess and understand why you got knocked down and then make the adjustment to move forward. So when I talk about our journey, when I talk about my own personal life, whatever, I have had so many failures along the way, but it just felt like after each failure, on the other side of that was some sort of success, because I would get back up and reassess and then choose to move forward in a different kind of way. So failure is not something we necessarily celebrate because it's a jagged pill to swallow, but I would just say stay in the game, guys, because if you stay in the game, success will come. You just got to be patient.
We're done. This was good.
Yeah, we're done here.
Find your people, and if they make you feel sexy, even better.